Hi guys, how you doing? I'm sorry that I'm a little late. I hope you all can join me, and let me see if I could get this properly set up. So, brother David, good to see you here, brother. Great to see you. Let me just hold on for a little while, see how much of you guys are interested to join this session. We're going to be talking a little bit about Syria, what's going on in Syria right now, specifically in Idlib, and what's going on. What is these atrocities that is taking place mean? How does 2018 looks like right now, and why is there so many unwilling people to talk about Syria? Why the world is so mute right now about Syria, and nobody wants to talk about Syria or even mention Syria. Let me just start by telling you, unfortunately, 2018 hasn't been exactly what we hoped for, but it has been exactly what we expected last year to become this year. So unfortunately, the year of 2018 is going to be extremely bloody and extremely chaotic, and we're seeing that on the ground already. Just giving you an example, just yesterday in midnight, there's a rocket launched from the sea by Russian naval fleet. They've shot a rocket that is extremely heavy and traveled hundreds of miles all the way to the center of Idlib. And it has bombed the center of Idlib in the middle of the night while people are asleep, while people are having their night session with their families. A bomb struck in the middle of the city, killing over 36 people so far. Identified dead people right now in Idlib last night. So there's so many things to talk about, but I don't really want to bore you with so much details, but I'd like to just say this. Idlib right now is facing pretty much the same scenario that Aleppo has faced back in 2016. Unfortunately, the city of Idlib, as we all know, it has become a hub for enormous amount of refugees coming from all over Syria, coming from Raqqa, coming from Aleppo, coming from Hama, Homs, even Daraa. There is tons of people. There are hundreds of thousands of people has fled these conflict zones over the past 6-7 years. So this city of Idlib and the countryside of Idlib, it has welcomed hundreds of thousands of people, and there is over 282 refugee camps based close to Idlib, and that is along the border of Turkey. So these refugees are estimated to be over, I'm talking about internal refugees, IDPs. These people are estimated to be more than 3 million people. I'm talking about 3 million civilians living in these areas. Plus the people who live in Idlib are estimated to be about 1.5 million people. So you can imagine the amount of people right now living in this little part of Syria that is estimated to be about 30 something percent of the whole Syrian size. This area now, it is in the plan of Assad regime to retake it. Why I'm saying that? Because just a while back, the regime's foreign secretary, the Walid al-Muallim, has announced that whatever agreed with the guarantors, I'm talking about the guarantors, Russia, Iran, and Turkey, on the so-called de-escalation zones that of course includes Idlib and the countryside, and of course Homs countryside, Hama countryside, and all the refugee camps. These de-escalation zones are, according to this foreign secretary, the illegitimate foreign secretary, saying that these are not, we are not abide by these de-escalation zones. So they are going to move on. They're going to move on in recapturing Idlib, just like what they have done in Aleppo, unfortunately. Why they have moved right now? Because they have already established or accomplished great victories in the areas Qamishli and of course Deir ez-Zor, and these areas has been right now neutralized, and they have occupied these areas by the so-called, or of the so-called ISIS that does not exist now. But of course, you know, ISIS works hand in hand with the Assad regime, and they of course are deployed whenever they are of course needed. So after finishing these fronts, of course, Assad regime is not gonna just sit tight and accept the fact that they control 60% of Syria, but they are gonna move forward in recapturing more land. Unfortunately, that is the scenario that is what's happening right now in Idlib and Idlib countryside. Why I find this situation extremely alarming is just because about 2 weeks ago, Assad regime and his militia, of course with the immense support by Russia from the sky, the Russian Air Force, they fly and they bomb the areas that the ground forces are going to move to. So that of course prepare for land invasion. The intense bombardments made it very much possible for the Assad regime to move forward. And unfortunately, about a week ago, they managed to overtake 14 main villages. I'm talking about in the north of Idlib and in the south, in the north of Idlib and south of Aleppo. These strategic areas to Assad regime extremely important. Why? Because he wants to recapture the Abu Dhur airport. Abu Dhur airport is about now 15 kilometers away from the city, the main village that he recaptured just lately, which is called Sinjar. Sinjar is right now under the control of the Assad regime, unfortunately. And along with it, there's 13 villages that he managed to recapture. He did not recapture these areas by the superior power that he has on the ground. They cannot win 1 square foot. They cannot reclaim or retake 1 square foot of Syria without or through the ground forces. You have to really understand that. They cannot. It's an impossible thing. But they can only advance and move forward and recapture land is done only by the air support that is Russia providing Assad regime. We're talking about really heavy firepower that comes from the sky. You know, Sukhoi air jets that is used right now in these areas are scary. You know, they are called by the local people the flying tanker. The flying tanker. It's referring to these air jets that are used, extremely air defense proof. Nothing can penetrate these planes, and they can fly fairly low, and they can bomb and really sweep the ground, turning living villages into a potato field, basically. And of course, killing everything that comes in front of it. Like I've just posted today earlier about how they are using the bombs and the parachutes, and they drop it on civilian populated areas where they can really maximize damage by completely demolishing these living spaces. This is unfortunately what's happening right now in the northern of Idlib. This is very alarming because, like I've mentioned, there are millions of people now living there, and due to these bombings, just over the last 20 days, I'm talking a maximum 20 days, about 14 days, there is over 400,000 people that has fled. 400,000 people. Imagine 400,000 people. You know, it's the equivalent of how much people live here in Helsinki. You know, this is enormous amount of people, and they're all civilians, and they have all fled these villages, the 14 villages, and they've moved forward toward the refugee camps. Refugee camps that is already living in a very extreme poverty and extreme circumstances, especially right now. You know, the winter and the rain and the mud and the cold and the lack of food and milk and water and warmth above all that. So this is an unbearable situation, and you get on top of all that 400,000 people that they have barely got anything to have. They have barely have anything on them. You know, they just fled whatever they have on them. You know, they just grabbed their kids and they ran. They ran, some by walking, some just by stash. The whole family in a truck, and they left in a hurry to reach safety zone. This is what is the situation right now, and there is so much work needs to be done in these refugee camps and in Idlib city. You know, the city is now, loaded with people. It's packed with people, and there are people living on the streets, and there are people living under olive trees. We're back to almost like square one. You know, I remember the same circumstances back in 2012 when I visited Syria the first time, watching the ocean of people that are scattered here and there, families. You know, I'm talking about hundreds and thousands of families back then living under olive trees. They got nothing to survive on, absolutely nothing. And imagine yourself sitting there with four or five kids of yours, and you got nothing to provide for these kids. These situations, it's happening right now. It is really happening right now. And due to the intense bombing, no NGOs are willing to operate on the ground, and no NGOs that are crossing the borders and providing help. You know, help is pretty much dumped on the borders, and they are relayed on the locals to do the distributions of that. And that does not really offer a very fair distribution to those who need it. So that is why I urged a lot of these local activists on the ground to set up a report and map up a little bit what's going on in these areas. What is the most people are needed? You know, if we're talking about 400,000 people, if just, you know, simple math, you know, you need 400,000 blankets. You know, you need at least 400,000 people are estimated to be about 15 to 16,000 families. You need at least 20,000 to 30,000 tent that should host these people, and even probably more. This is the minimum number that is acute situation right now that we need it on the ground and needs to be provided. You know, the continuity of this humanitarian crisis on the ground, you know, does not really provide any solutions. You know, people have provided tents back in the days, and these tents are meant to be for about 6 months, and 6 months is long gone. Now we're living about the 6th year now, and heading toward the 7th year. That is why the international community should really step in. I mean, step in politically, and also join efforts to combine those efforts and turn it into concrete humanitarian effort on the ground to provide as much as this basic needs needed for these, you know, massive numbers of civilians fleeing. These 400,000 people they got nowhere to go, absolutely nowhere to go. You know, the borders with Turkey is sealed, as like not a soul can get in and not a soul can get out. What makes the situation even more devastating for those people? They've lost completely hope in the international community, and they've lost completely hope in us standing outside watching. And on top of all that, we've got no media organization or any media outlet. Is it written or heard or even watched? Satellite, domestic, foreign, nothing at all is covering this story. And I am extremely appalled by the silence of the international community that is really practicing right now towards Syria. As if that, like, they are forcing people back to the lap of the Assad regime who killed those peoples. killing about 700,000 people. You know, just lately, last week, I read a report about the United Nations report saying that not only they in their report saying that there is confirmed 350,000 deaths, and I tell you the number is twice as much. But in that report, they've acknowledged that there is 1.6 million disabled civilian due to the war, either missing a leg or missing an arm or missing an eye or can't walk anymore, completely paralyzed, half paralyzed. So these are the physical people who are disabled or internally disabled by this war, physically. But there is also millions of people who are mentally disabled by the atrocities committed and the horrifying lives they had to go through watching all these bombardments. Like I've posted today, this video of bombings falling on top of people. Imagine yourself watching that bomb coming in. You know, I've lived these moments in Aleppo, and I've lived these moments, and I tell you, I can still smell the concrete. I can still smell the blood. I can still have it. It's stuck in my nose, and I cannot really get over it. And I have not really lived there continuously all the time. You know, I've visited, yes, 29 times, but those people who are really living there and they have to do this day in and day out, it is not easy to be able to overcome these difficulties, either mentally or psychologically. Not mention, of course, the physical part of it. I mean, you have lost everything you got. You have lost family members. You have lost everything you've worked for. You've lost your retirement plan. You've lost your country. You've lost your village. You've lost everything you got, and all you have is a tent if you got that. So this is devastating to a lot of people. I mean, me myself living in a peaceful country, you know, I can always come to Finland and live a peaceful country, but I'm completely not here. I am physically here, but I am not here. I am over there. I'm thinking of the people over there, and I'm thinking, what could I do to really to provide for these people, to provide for the people that I consider my people, and this is really paralyzing in a way, and extremely devastating. You know, it melts mountains, and the situation is getting even worse. We're not even starting. And if we really lose Idlib city, and if we really face those times where Assad regime and his foreign militia forced themselves by bombing Idlib city, we're talking about a major humanitarian crisis. We're talking about a genocide that is about to happen. We've seen genocides before, we've witnessed it, and the world did not react. And the whatever agreed on in Astana last year on a zones that is so called the de-escalation zone, I'm telling you, none of that has been implemented on the ground. None of that implemented at all. Assad regime, as if he has the complete power to do anything he wants, and no one is really stepping up against him. So unfortunately, the world is unwilling to do anything for Syria, and the world is not just unwilling to do anything for Syria, but the world is supporting those war criminals that are involved in the Syrian war. I'm talking about Russian policies, I'm talking about the Iranian policy, and I'm talking about the silence of the European Union. I'm talking about the silence of the United States. It's not anymore silence. It is extremely cooperating with Russia. I mean, Donald Trump is pretty much a toy boy in the hands of Vladimir Putin, and this is extremely clear to all of us around. And what he cares about is just tweeting and talking nonsense and all the bullshit that he's been posting lately. None of what he does matters. I mean, all what he does is golf and sit and watch TV. And the book said it all. You know, the book that has just been released a couple days ago, that it said it completely all. And I'm asking you people, I mean, if I have about 5,000 friends here on Facebook, and each one of you search around you and see if there's any local newspaper or local radio or a parliament member, you know, and wrote an email to them, write an email to them and tell them that they must take action, they must meet together. And if we flood those people with messages and by sharing our videos, by, you know, collecting facts around you and making these facts into black and white email and post that email and contacting these people that I've sent you an email, send 1 email, 2 email, 5 emails, keep on pushing forwards until they hear and you get a response back from them. This is what we need to do. We need to place pressure on the people who are taking decisions. Either we encourage NGOs, local NGOs, or even international NGOs to take action and go to the ground, go to the field and see what exactly happening and provide the help needed. Other than that, it is all just a bloody theater, and we're all committing the same crime by being silent. This is devastating. This is devastating. You know, Turkey is and somehow is doing its best, and they are already hosting 3.5 million Syrian people, and they have provided for these people. They've offered them education. They've offered them health care, and you know, Turkey alone probably spent on refugees equal to the world combined. I wish we could do really something. And I don't know what else to tell you. Of course, I blame also these the groups fighting on the ground. Unfortunately, they are pointing fingers at each other, and they are saying it's your fault, or it's not my fault, or, you know, there's a little negativity going on between the fighting groups on the ground. You know, Faylaq al-Sham, Faylaq al-Rahman, Jaysh al-Nasr, Tahrir al-Sham. There's, of course, how can I say, a pessimistic situation right now going on between these fighting fractions, and I look forward to see the day that these people join forces and really step up to the plate and protect these civilians as much as they can. But the ruthless bombardments is insane. I mean, some people ask me why on earth the Assad regime is advancing so quickly. I would say there is many reasons to that. One, of course, and the most important one, is the relentless, continuous, heavy-scale bombardments implemented by Russian Air Force. This is something unprecedented. It hasn't been seen before, you know. And the people on the ground trying to protect civilians. Back in 2013, 14, 15, up to the late or mid 2016, they've been getting a little support from the so-called Friends of Syria group, which is the MOK, which is it has America, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, and of course Jordan, and the European Union as well. These they have, both of them, or they have provided an important support for the fighting groups on the ground. But in early 2016, everything just stopped. And I remember being in Syria, and every fighting fraction leader I have met, they told me they have not received a single bullet from outside, and they've stopped all their financial supports. If we're talking about financial supports, we're talking about a few $100,000 to keep these guys alive. They can find food to eat. You know, we're not talking about, you know, giant numbers of support that would you know, turn the table or balance the fighting between Assad and these Free Syrian Army groups. You know, we're talking about keeping the fight alive, and that is the support they've been getting. But even that has been cut off, and that is the sad thing. And once this support is completely cut off, the fighting fractions on the ground, the fighting groups on the ground, they've noticed the danger coming. They cannot really import any of the weapons they need. They cannot fight Russia on the ground. You know, these primitive fighting groups on the ground, they got light weapons, and they're fighting the second most powerful nation military-wise on the ground, which is Russia. Russia, a country that nobody wants to fight against, and we've seen that. So I lift my hat off to these people who are doing everything they can to protect whatever they have left. They're protecting themselves, they're protecting their own land, they're protecting their own families, whatever they hold dear. So it's an extremely unbalanced fight. You cannot really point the fingers at the Free Syrian Army or those who are resisting on the ground and tell them it's your fault. It's not their fault. They cannot. They're completely abandoned. They are not allowed to buy weapons. They are not allowed to get support. They're not provided support. They're not provided any weapons to fight with. They're left all alone, and they are extremely sieged. And that is the sad thing. They're not letting them. They're not supporting them, and they're not letting themselves getting the support they need. So this is the sad thing. This is absolutely the sad thing, and this is going to go down in history by blaming the Syrian people. Will have no short memory on such crimes, you know, participated by the West in indirectly supporting the Assad regime. That is how we see it, unfortunately. From here, from Finland, I wish all my friends in Syria you to stay healthy, and I want you to stay alive, and I want you to keep writing to me and keep talking to me. You know, the more you talk to me, the more I feel that you are okay, you are still alive, and I will never abandon you, and I am forced to stay away right now, and I'm unfortunately unable to come to Syria because my NGO funding is being freezed, and I cannot really. And this is another dilemma, you know. Not only me, I'm talking to a lot of NGOs and activists here in Sweden and also in United Kingdom, and they're all telling me pretty much the same story. Their NGOs activity it's been extremely pressurized. It's been sieged and put under magnifying glass, and any effort that has been done to help support the Syrians has been put under a magnifying glass, and their activity is questioned, and they've been harassed. They're making their life difficult, either by freezing their assets or either by, you know, in going through every single details on how they are implementing their work on the ground. That is absolutely fine, and we completely cooperate with the governments that are supervising how our work is being conducted, but do not stop us. You know, advise us, tell us what we need to do. Tell us this is right, this is wrong. Sponsor the work we're doing at least but do not stop it. But unfortunately, a lot of work has been stopped, and hopefully in our case, our NGO will operate soon, later in hopefully by the spring, so we can continue working by supporting our people in Syria and doing as much as we can. I am sorry for not really answering any of your questions. I would love to answer if you got any questions. I've been talking so much about what's going on, and I haven't really paid attention to any of the questions that you guys have. I'll try to scroll down and see if there's any questions that has been asked. Ritva is mentioned. I said this before. I say it again. I don't understand why the Russians and all the others are doing and killing civilians. Well, I don't understand it either. But you see, Russia has lost influence everywhere in the world, and they want to have a strategic military and a place where it serves their interest in the Middle East, and that is provided only in Syria. Why they are interested in Syria? Because Russia provides a lot of gas to Europe, and they don't want the Gulf's gas and oil go over. I mean, via the ground or via land to Europe, and that if it does happen, it will go cheaply to Europe, and that happens, of course, Russia will lose a lot of influence over Europe. So Syria holds a very golden spot or a position where it could be interfering. If there is any plans that will go provide pipelines through the land to Europe, it will happen through Syria definitely. Other than that, it's impossible. So that is why Russia is extremely keen on staying in Syria and investing in Assad regime. That is why. And of course, also one more reason is that Russia is fighting NATO and also is fighting the West, holding the Syrian card in its hand. Russia doesn't really care about how many people they kill. They don't even care how many people they get killed from their army. They don't really care. Just a while back, 15 Russian soldiers died in a helicopter crash. They don't even mention it. They don't even give a shit. They are expendables. Russian army personnel are expendable to Russia, to Putin, Russia. I'm talking. So this is unfortunate. I hope that answers your question, Ritva. Oh, I wish I can read that in Spanish, but I'm sorry I can't. Kari Ilmari. أخي مهند جفاري حياك الله وبياك إن شاء الله دائما تكون بصحة وسلامة الله يبارك فيك. Hola Yules, how you doing? Still a country, Kari Ilmari, still a country of people who's running that stupid, brainless idiots, criminals with criminal minds. Yes, man. Unfortunately, there are those shitty sect that is everywhere as well. Assad call everyone terrorists, rebels, rats. Dehumanizing, of course, comes before genocide. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Assad regime, with his spokesperson said in the beginning of 2011, he said Stalin, when he went to war, he lost half of his population, and we don't mind to lose half of the population. So they're willing to kill half of the population in Syria just to stay in power. And that is the dilemma here. I appreciate, of course, all of you here joining us. I hope you stay tuned for a little while longer to get the chance to really reply to everything you guys have here. I'm sorry. I will get back to you. I think I will read these questions that you have, and I will definitely reply to you later after this whole session is over. So you guys got any question relating to Syria? I mean, I'm sure all of you who follow the situation in Syria, you all got friends from Syria who was posting quite disturbing videos from Syria that you are not really fully understanding what is going on. So I thought it's extremely important for me to really tell you, since you're not seeing anything on the news, no CNN, no BBC, nothing on the news about Syria. So I thought it's an obligation for me to really speak it out and tell you what exactly happening, and what I know what's going on the ground is not from my own personal knowledge. It's from people on the ground. I got my cousins, my uncles, my nephews in Idlib city, and I got family there, and I pray for them every day. But all Syrian people to me is my family. It's not just only the blood family. All Syrians to me are family to me. Well, it's not the only reason, Frozen. It's not the only reason for gas and oil. No, it is, like I said, it's military superiority that they are interested in. محمد نور الدين اتمنى ان تعود مثل ما كنت من قبل وهم. حياك الله اخي محمد، الله يبارك فيك اخي. هي سوريا الي وان شاء الله بلدي، وانتم كلاتكم اهلي واخواني، وانا ما بتخلى عنكم ان شاء الله تعالى، ومصيرنا باذن الله. انا بس هيك يحرروني ان شاء الله راح بنزل بضل عندكم لحتى الله يفرجها. الله يبارك فيكم. وبصير مقر الرئيسي سوريا مو فنلندا ان شاء الله. بس ادعونا الله يفرج علينا. الله يبارك فيكم. So is there any questions you got to have in mind? If not, I am going to wrap this up, and I want to I want to salute all these people who are in front lines defending Syria and defending their families and the civilians against this brutal regime that has proven to be the worst regime ever in the modern history. And I want to salute as well the people in Ghouta, in Harasta, and for the amazing work they're doing, for the amazing bravery they have shown. They've been sieged for over 4.5 years. People, I'm talking about the eastern Ghouta, especially the Harasta, Daraya, Douma, and all these areas. They've been sieged for over 4.5 years. I'm talking about little space, and they have resisted and resisted. And they have not just preserved this area or protected this area, they've even launched offensive attacks on the Assad regimes. And they have retook many of Assad regime's areas. And now they are sieging one of the most prestigious, most vital, most important vehicle academy that is pretty much looking over Damascus. And if they manage to take this vehicle academy, that'll be something huge, because the head of the snake is in Damascus. And if they manage to go there and grab it, it'll be a huge thing. So I really pray for those people to do their best and really get there and control that vehicle academy. Hey Devish, how you doing, man? Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. حياك الله أخي نور الدين. الله يبارك فيك. Angelica, good to see you here too. You still alive, girl? How you doing? Happy New Year to you all. It's not going to be Happy New Year. It's going to be a bloody year. It's going to be a bloody, bloody, bloody year. Unfortunately, 2018 will be a very devastating year, and we've already seen it. We've already seen it here in the past couple weeks, what is happening. I mean, just in the past couple weeks, we've got over 500 deaths and over 400,000 displaced civilians inside Syria. And that is not a good sign. That is a very devastating sign. And people scattered all over the place, can't find a place to really shelter. People have took all the people they can inside their homes, but they're living on top of each other. It's a very small area, and situation cannot be any more dire than this. Yes, sir, it will be, definitely. I mean, we'll all have to. The whole world is putting their hands on their heart, scared of what's going to happen between the United States and, of course, Korea. This is something that's been frightening the whole world. I've heard that Americans are helping ISIS gather in the north of Afghanistan. Oh, Afghanistan is long gone, brother. They have worked with ISIS, transporting them from Deir el-Zor and Qamishli, and they have literally transported them to Eastern Ghouta. Unfortunately, yes, they are. Cooperation with ISIS, between ISIS and Assad, is as clear as the sun. Nobody can deny it. I remember when I was in Aleppo. The rebels on the ground in Aleppo, they were advancing on the front of Assad regime, And the more they hurt the Assad regime, and the more they get land, what happens next is that to ease the attack on the Assad regime fronts, ISIS started to move from our back and start stabbing the rebels from the back. When they do that, of course, the rebels will retreat, and they will go back and stop their offenses on the Assad regime. Every time the rebels move toward the Assad regime, ISIS moved back from the back, and they stab, and by killing, sending suicide bombers, bombing and doing everything they can to hurt the rebels from their back front, to weaken them so they can retreat. That is a fact. I wish you all a good day, and like I said, to-do list, every single one of you, find your local partners, your local NGOs, find your local politicians, talk to them, email them, and see what exactly you can do with them. Keep the pressure on them until they get involved and act. So other than that, it's impossible. And there was a question here by Condor. Kind regards, my friends. Like we talked days ago. Yep. Yeah, man. I wish you all the best, and I hope you can get your shit together, and hopefully I hear from you pretty much soon. All the best for you, brother. Allahumma ameen akhi Fatih. Hayak Allah. I don't think so. There's any ISIS fighters will be even thinking of going to Canada, bro. They are well known. They're well-known criminals, and they got a job on the ground in Syria. And once their job is over, they will get rid of them and recruit someone else. Exactly the roots of the problem. What problem? Understand that people, kids, mom, dad, ones got no security, nobody have peace, secure place. Yeah, well, the problem is the Assad regime wants to stay in power no matter what it costs. Even if it costs him to get rid of half of the Syrian population, he doesn't really care. And now half of Syrian population is already gotten rid of. We've got 12 million refugees. 6 of them in Syria, still IDPs, international displaced people, and 6 million of them are living all around the world. 3 million in Turkey alone, 1.5 in Lebanon, 1.2 in Jordan, and on and on and on. In 300,000 in Egypt, 400,000 in Germany alone, 270,000 in Sweden, and here in Finland we got 3,800 Syrians only. Only less than 4,000 Syrians. Yes. So, I wish you all the best. It's not enough that you are on my friend list. I would like you to really ask you to do something for me. Go to the edit friend list and watch first. Click as watch first so you can get the updates as quickly as possible. So, I look forward to seeing you again. Do not hesitate in sending me private messages, and stay in touch. God bless you all, and I really gotta go, and I took so much of your time. Bless you all. Take care.